All right. Good morning, everybody. Tara here with a Wifey Wake Up podcast. It's a cloudy day, cloudy morning here in rural Minnesota. And I've spent some time messing around with my lighting, but just decided, okay, let's get going here. So we've got an exciting topic today. Why should I listen to him? And by him, of course, I mean your husband. But if you're not married yet, this can definitely help you as well, because absolutely the more you can prepare for this scenario, the better. And I guess prepare, that just sounds like I hear so much, like in the dating realm, about women in particular, about lists this long. And so when I talk prepare, I'm not talking about like over preparing. It's more so being aware. And on cue, I need to take a drink of water. Okay. So, of course, like, comment. I think there'll be some comments on this one. Subscribe. If you found this helpful, interesting, send to a friend that you think this could be helpful for. And I'm talking to the guys and the ladies here. It's good to hear from both of you. So let's get into it. Why should I listen to him? All right. So I've been married going on 24 years now. And I'm of the generation, I've heard my generation called the Zennials. So we're like in that gray area between Gen Z and millennials. And so we carry characteristics of both. Like we can understand where the Gen Z has come from and understand the millennials. And I definitely feel that that's the case. And I say that because it's kind of a sweet spot, in my opinion, where when we were at home, and we were the latchkey kids, the first of the latchkey kids, right? And you're watching a TV program, and they still had old shows on. And old, that would have been like shows from the 70s or 60s. And there was still kind of this sense of order in the family. But it's also, as the sitcoms started coming on, where it was the mom running the show and the dad's just being vilified and teased and just made to be out these imbeciles. And so we got some of both. And definitely there is plenty of the feminist agenda already in the society and schools. And I mean, like, teachers, not necessarily, maybe they were overtly teaching the feminist agenda, but even covertly, just by in various ways. So maybe just one example. When I was in high school, I had a biology teacher. My maiden name is Hartman, and she would call me Heart Woman. And to me, it was just like totally unnecessary. It was just like, that's weird. Like my actual name was Hartman. And that's kind of actually a disrespect to my family and my lineage. In addition, to me, it wasn't even just like a feminist agenda. It was just like, why change your name? Or why change someone else's name for your own agenda, let's say. So anyways, that's an example. That was kind of overt and covert in a way. So what I'm getting at is, when I met my husband, he was actually my martial arts instructor. Long story short, I quickly became his Spanish instructor, and that put us as equals. And very soon after that, also, we got married. So he, as he has said many times, when you're a teacher in a community, you have to be very careful, and especially when you run a school that's open to the community, that you're not just dating your students and dating around. You quickly develop a bad reputation, or a certain reputation that, maybe it works for some, but it wasn't the reputation that he wanted to develop. So he told his instructors as well, if you start dating someone, you have to marry them. And so, of course, he had to follow his own guidance, which is, as a side note, as I'm doing wifey school, it also convicts me at every moment. So my husband's probably smiling at this moment. And so why should I listen to him? So the point that, my husband was first my martial arts instructor, already started out the relationship in kind of a hierarchical and also very much a respectful kind of way. Now, it wasn't a typical kind of dojo place, but still, I think there is still, hopefully in our society, it will definitely then, that your teacher was someone you respected. I mean, why would you be paying someone especially to teach you something if you didn't respect them? And I think that helped to set a tone in our relationship. In addition to that, he's 12 years older than me. And then, at least, I don't see it all the time here these days, but there was a certain respect that came along with for someone who's older than you. Now, typically, a lot of times that does imply that they have maybe some more knowledge or maturity. And it was in his case. And that's not always the case with people, but there's still, I think, a certain merit to respecting those who are older than you. And that was definitely instilled and ingrained in me. So fortunately, that was a foundational concept or foundational principles in our relationship. They were unspoken. They were, I would say, how we grew up in our generation and also in the society where we lived. And at that time in particular, those were just even unspoken kind of rules in a way. And they were spoken typically when you were a kid and you were taught to be that way. That's all to say, I'm actually really grateful that we started out our relationship that way, because looking back, and certainly over the 20-some years that we've been married, and all the times that I've noticed and haven't noticed until later, the teaching that to fight your man, to challenge everything that he says, and even if not everything, a lot of things that he says. And I want to clarify that it's not that my husband and I don't discuss. I mean, there's a difference between a dictatorial relationship. Then there's you're working as a couple relationship that I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not necessarily talking about the man who's the dictator that just says, this is how it's happening. I mean, there are times where that does need to happen, but when you have a good, respectful relationship for each other, you will have those conversations. He will listen to you, and you won't have to try to make him listen. So when I was growing up, I was definitely taught the latter, that to be heard, you had to make yourself be heard. And yes, that definitely works for a while. I mean, I remember an early boyfriend that I had for a short time. I'd invited him over for dinner at my parents' place, and for whatever reason, he couldn't come until much later. And he was just like, he probably worked or something, was working. And he's like, I'm just gonna not, it's late. And I harassed him into coming over, and I could tell that he was like eating pork chops and just not enjoying it. And I mean, I'm not married to him. There's neither here nor there in that sense, but just looking back and going, wow, that was really rude and no fun for anyone. I knew anyways that he was still in love with his previous girlfriend. It didn't last, but regardless, that would have been plenty to turn a guy away. And so just to say that's how I was taught to be, that was definitely the example that I saw, that if you want something, you just hammer on your guy until you get it. And like I said, that works for a time, but what it does is it pushes the guy away. The guy becomes more distant, and then you as a couple become more distant. So it doesn't work really in the long term, for the long-term relationship. So I know the S word, submit, is really hard. And it's honestly still hard for me. It's so ingrained to, to be the equal, to be always fighting for your equal placement with men. But when I look back, all that I saw was women fighting men and women fighting women. And this was in my family. This has been also since when I observe those who are teaching this type of teaching, which is not submission, which is not alignment. And I knew inside of me at an early age that's not what I wanted, but it's so amazing. Like when you're trained to be a certain way, how much is so much in you. I think it becomes really apparent, like a golf swing or a swinging a bat or a tennis racket or something, and you developed a habit of doing it a certain way for so long that when someone you're trying to learn the correct way to do it, and to untrain yourself is even more challenging. And that's just what these observations have been for me. And so the real point is here, what I really want to illustrate, because I wrote the title, why should I listen to him? And I had to ask myself this question. This is, my husband and I would be butting heads, and I'd ask myself, okay, if I were to believe in submitting to my husband, why should I? What would be good reasons for that? And number one, I thought, well, when I first met him, I trusted him completely. Like, to get married is to trust someone with your body, mind, spirit, soul, like everything. Then challenges is that you're not going to see all of the challenges you're going to encounter together, but your love, you have faith in each other that you will be able to get through the things that are unforeseen, that if you don't have the skills, that you will learn them, that because you love each other, you will find the best solutions, not only for yourself, but for your relationship, for your life, and for your family. And it's that union, it's that dedication to each other, and that becoming one, that you're in the boat together. You're not just trying to be all out for yourself, that even though you will never know all the challenges that you see ahead, that you can have faith in your love, in your commitment to each other. And that helps to reinforce that the next steps, the unforeseen steps, you will make the right decisions. And so, to back up, if you believed in him, if you chose to marry him, and you believed in him 100%, which should be the case, and this is the advice for those who are dating, is choose someone that is currently making good decisions, and so that you can at least see in the future that he has the thought process. You're going to encounter things that are challenging in the future, but at least if he has the thought process and your support, he is more likely to continue to make those very good decisions. So first of all, trust him like you did when you married him. Second, talk about it. Any good man is going to be willing to talk to you about things. Just be careful about how often it's not every day. It may not even be every week, but just to say, hey, can I get an update? How are things going here? How often is it reasonable to talk about this? And just with the intention that can help set your mind and heart at ease as well. And continue to have faith and trust in him. Like I said, sometimes you might have to rekindle that faith and trust from earlier in your relationship. Think back, and what are some earlier instances where he really did show that that faith and trust in him was of merit. And I mean this, like when you were choosing him and so forth, and have that help you to reinforce why to trust and still have faith in him now. And that can be really helpful, because especially when you're encountering those things that are unknown, unforeseen, it's scary for everybody. It is stepping out on that rocky ground, right? But believe me, when you can get through these trying times when you don't know whether to, you're both feeling insecure. He might not tell you that, but he's often feeling that as well. But you can get through it together and have a much stronger relationship as a result. Just to reinforce too that, if you're just talking about things on occasion, and you're not just constantly asking him about it. I'm guilty of this. This is why I'm saying this. I am so much the person like, okay, how's it going now? It's like the watched pot never boils, right? But and it's very annoying. It's now that I've been running a business for several years, I understand these things on a different level because it's like in a business, and we do this naturally, I think in business where, like your boss says something and you go, okay, I got it. And you don't go back and ask 5 times, okay, why are we doing this? Are you sure this is going to work? How is this going? Similarly, that would be, first of all, very disrespectful in the order, the chain of command. You might have a conversational relationship with your boss, but uh, it's going to be different, right? And similarly, it's very tiring when you have someone constantly questioning your decisions or doubting. It weighs on you. The converse is someone who's cheering you on. Now, again, kind of departing a bit from the work situation, but I think if you think of like the classic quarterback and cheerleader couple, right? That's like kind of the American classic couple in a way. It's also the good girl and the bad boy, but we'll go with the quarterback and cheerleader here. Now, I was like farthest from the cheerleader crowd. Like that just, I would roll my eyes. It just was not my thing. But when it comes to my husband, I definitely love supporting him and cheering on him on how he likes it. Fortunately, we kind of match up in those styles, how we like to deliver it and receive it. And I've also had to learn a few new ways that, maybe not new ways, but just know more specifically about him, how he likes to be supported. Okay, so wrapping it up, think about when you first married, you had this just like complete love and trust in him. And if you didn't, or if you're dating and that's not where you're headed, that's something you want to and need to aim for, because you have to start the relationship on 100% trust. Then talk about it. Don't talk about it ad nauseum, whatever issue is coming up where you're wondering, should I listen to him? But talk about it. And yeah, I already talked about went in depth on that. Continue to have faith and trust. You might have to rekindle that, like I mentioned. And one thing that I didn't point out more is that he wants to perform for you. A man who loves a woman really wants to perform for her. But if she's constantly asking, how is it going? Or what about this? And what about that? And is doubting him, it wears on him. And especially if he's already battling things out there and then has to come home and explain and update, it's very tiring. And it just wears on a person. And especially if he's already battling that out there, it takes so much more energy to come home and battle it at home. And the important thing also is to consider the tone. You can ask a lot of things just depending on the tone of voice that you're using, the spirit that you're approaching him with. If it is, why are you making that decision? Why didn't you do it this way? And trying to even reinforce your way of doing it, having a conversation and going, even saying, this really concerns me, and how, let me know some of your thought process, just leaving it open-ended like that. And you'd be surprised when you do open up and ask to hear his thought process and don't try to interject your own, how much that can help to set you at ease, make for better communication, and you will probably be surprised too what he has in mind. Okay, I got to wrap this up. Let's see. So I would say, yes, you should listen to your husband. And then again, this is on 20 some years of marriage. And first of all, you're going to, you, I'm going to end up reiterating everything I just said. I already said it all. Why am I going to say it again? Rewind this if you need to hear it again. So yes, listen to your husband. And it's just amazing how much that can relieve stress, tension, wasted energy in your relationship. And then the thing is too, if what he does, quote, fails, the responsibility is on him, and don't hammer it home. Don't hammer it in that he or that failed, because he's less likely to want to pick up that ball again and run again. It's already difficult to have failed. So why should I listen to him? Number one is, if you married him, you implicitly had trust in him. And you have to, once you're married, see yourself as that joint unit. You're a couple now. You're not so much the individuals, you're working together. Anyways, I already said all that. It's a big topic. I think that's why I'm stumbling here, because I have my mind, it keeps wanting to go in these other directions. I can almost hear the questions and the comments that are going to come up. And that's what I just want to encourage at the end here. Leave your comments and questions. How has this worked in your life? Because there are a lot of caveats, and caveats that I've definitely questioned for myself and had to work through as well. So I'd be glad to go off on these tangents in another podcast, but I'm going to leave it at that today. It's been very difficult to keep this all wrapped up, but there you go. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and take care.